Once upon a time, in a big, beautiful meadow filled with colorful wildflowers and tall, green grass, there lived a cheerful grasshopper. The sun was shining brightly, and the whole world seemed to be smiling. The grasshopper loved summer more than anything. He would spend his days leaping from one blade of grass to another, singing his happy songs at the top of his voice. His music filled the meadow, and he felt like the luckiest creature alive. Tra-la-la, what a glorious day! He would sing, his heart full of joy. Life was easy, life was fun, and the grasshopper couldn't imagine it any other way. One sunny afternoon, as he was practicing a new tune on his tiny fiddle, he saw a small creature marching with great determination. It was an ant, and she was carrying a big, heavy grain of wheat on her back. She looked very focused, her tiny legs moving quickly as she headed towards a small hole in the ground, which was the entrance to her home. The grasshopper stopped his song and called out, "Hello there, little ant. Where are you going in such a hurry on this beautiful day?" The ant paused for a moment, carefully balancing the grain of wheat. "I'm taking this food back to my nest," she replied, a little out of breath. "I'm storing up food for the winter." The grasshopper chuckled. He hopped closer, peering at the ant. "Winter, but winter is so far away. Look around you, my friend. The sun is warm, the flowers are blooming, and there's plenty of food everywhere. Why waste such a perfect day working so hard?" he asked, twirling his fiddle playfully. "Come on, forget about work. Let's sing and dance together. I have a new song I want to share. It's all about the sunshine and the blue sky." The grasshopper began to play a lively tune, his feet tapping in the dust. He was sure the ant would be tempted to join him. But the ant just shook her head, a gentle smile on her face. "Thank you, Grasshopper. Your music is lovely. But I can't stop to play right now. Winter will be here before we know it, and it will be cold and snowy. There will be no food to find then. I need to prepare now so my family and I have enough to eat when the cold days come," she explained patiently. "It's wise to plan ahead. You should think about storing some food too, instead of just playing all day." With that, she waved a tiny antenna goodbye and continued on her journey, disappearing into her anthill with her precious grain of wheat. The grasshopper just shrugged and laughed out loud. "Silly ant," he thought to himself, "worrying about winter on a day like this. There's plenty of time for work later." And so, he went back to his singing and dancing. All through the long, warm summer, the grasshopper played. He sang to the buzzing bees, danced with the fluttering butterflies, and napped in the shade of the daisies when he got tired. Every day, he saw the ant and her family, marching back and forth, always busy, always carrying food. They carried seeds, grains, and tiny pieces of leaves. "Work, work, work," the grasshopper would tease them. "You don't know how to have fun." The ants would just wave and carry on, their pantry growing fuller with each passing day. Slowly, the golden days of summer began to fade. The air grew a little cooler in the mornings, and the sun didn't feel quite as warm. The vibrant green leaves on the trees started to blush with shades of red, orange, and yellow. Autumn had arrived. The grasshopper noticed the change, but he wasn't worried. "It's still lovely," he thought, and continued to play his fiddle, though his songs were a little less energetic now. The butterflies had disappeared, and many of the flowers had withered away. The ants, however, were working harder than ever, trying to gather the last bits of food before the first frost. Then, one morning, the grasshopper woke up shivering. A cold, sharp wind was blowing through the meadow, whipping the last of the dead leaves from the trees. The sky was gray and heavy with clouds. He looked around for something to eat, but the once abundant plants were now bare and brown. The ground was hard and cold. For the first time, the grasshopper felt a real pang of hunger in his belly. He searched everywhere, hopping from one bare stem to another, but there wasn't a single crumb of food to be found. "Oh dear," he whispered to himself, his voice trembling. The ant was right. The days grew colder and shorter. Soon, soft white snowflakes began to fall from the sky, covering the meadow in a thick, cold blanket. The grasshopper was miserable. He was freezing, and he was so hungry his stomach ached. He had no home to shelter him from the biting wind and no food to warm his belly. He was too weak to even play his fiddle anymore, huddled under a withered leaf, shivering uncontrollably. He remembered the busy little ant and her cozy nest, filled with all the food she had worked so hard to collect. With his last bit of strength, he decided he had to ask for help. Struggling through the deep snow, the grasshopper finally reached the anthill. He could smell the faint, delicious scent of food coming from inside. He knocked weakly on the tiny door with a frozen leg. After a moment, the door creaked open, and there stood the ant, looking warm and well-fed. She saw the poor, shivering grasshopper, and her eyes widened in surprise. "Grasshopper, what are you doing out here in the snow? You look terrible," she exclaimed. The grasshopper looked down at his feet, feeling ashamed. "Please," he chattered, his teeth clicking together. "I'm so cold and hungry. I haven't eaten in days. Can you spare just a little bit of food, tea?" The ant looked at the sad grasshopper and felt a wave of pity for him. She remembered his carefree songs and his teasing words, but she also saw how desperate he was. She sighed softly. "You laughed at me all summer when I was working," she said, her voice not angry, but firm. "I told you to prepare for winter, but you only wanted to play." The grasshopper hung his head. "I know," he whispered. "You were right, and I was foolish. I'm so sorry. I've learnt my lesson." Seeing his genuine regret, the kind ant's heart softened. "All right," she said, opening the door wider. "Come inside and get warm. We have enough to share a little with a neighbor in need." The ant led the grasshopper down into her warm, cozy nest. It was filled with little rooms, all stocked high with grains and seeds. The grasshopper's eyes went wide. The ant gave him a bowl of warm grain soup, which he ate gratefully. It was the most delicious thing he had ever tasted. As he ate, the ant said gently, "I will help you this time, because everyone deserves a second chance. But you must remember this lesson, Grasshopper. There is a time for play and a time for work. You cannot play all the time and expect to be taken care of." The grasshopper nodded, his heart full of gratitude. "I will," he promised. "I will never forget your kindness, and I will never forget this lesson." The grasshopper stayed with the ants for a few days, regaining his strength. When the snowstorm passed, he thanked the ant and her family from the bottom of his heart and went on his way. When spring finally returned and the snow melted, the grasshopper was a changed creature. As soon as the first green shoots appeared, he began to work alongside the ants, gathering his own supply of food for the next winter. He still loved to sing and play his fiddle, but now he understood that there was a right time for it. Who would work hard in the morning, and then in the evening, he would play his beautiful music as a thank you to the ants, who had taught him such an important lesson. And from that day on, the grasshopper never went hungry again. So, the moral of our story tonight is a very important one. Always plan for the future. It's wonderful to have fun and play, but it's also very important to take care of your responsibilities first. A little bit of hard work today can make sure you have a safe and happy tomorrow, just like the ant. If you prepare ahead, you'll always be ready for whatever comes your way. Thank you for joining us for this magical tale. We hope you enjoyed it and that it brings you sweet dreams. Remember to be like the wise ant and always do your work before you play. We love sharing stories with you. If you liked this one, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more wonderful adventures. Good night and sleep tight.